units of progression. So, we are talking about the goals, content, and sequencing of language curriculum design. So within this topic, we've got a subtopic, which is units of progression. As we have already talked about vocabulary and how we can, teach vocabulary into its different units. Now we're going to see how we can, teach grammar and the functions of language through its subdivision into units or blocks, right? Grammar, obviously is one of the major units of progression, yeah? So while making decisions about the selection or and sequencing of grammatical units, so they give a sort of particular value to the course, yeah? So we try to bring in, as language curriculum planners, we need to bring in vocabulary which is frequently used. And I think there is a clear research which has emphasized the role of frequent grammar. I mean, the grammar which is frequently used. We've got an example, a set of guidelines by George, and these guidelines state for stage 1, I mean, it could be grade 1 in other words, and the language course is going to be spanning over 2 years, and over 2 years we're going to dedicate 5 periods of 1 hour each in 1 week. Okay, so the syllabus is grade 1, and its duration is 2 years and 5 periods in a week. Yeah, so we can start this, according to George, we can start this course by teaching, starting with imperatives. Imperatives, as many of you know, is about teaching how to give command. Yeah, and then we can move on down plus stem. Yeah, and then we can teach simple present, actual, and neutral tense. Yeah, for example, the sentence, your luggage is in the lost and found section. So this is what is simple present, actual, and neutral tense. And we can move on then the verb plus to plus stem, and then we can start with simple present, neutral, and actual, and the use of past participle. So these are different stages whereby we can start from and then keep moving on. And similarly, in the grade stage 2, which could be of 2 years again, 5 periods in a week, we can move on to some additional lexical or vocabulary items. So functions, some courses are divided into their functions. Some syllabuses or textbooks, they are divided, their units are presented in the form of functions. Obviously, functions, as the word indicates, functional syllabuses have their, own functions, but, on their face value, they look functional, but in reality, they contain grammatical structures. The grammatical structures are the basic means to talk about various functions. Yeah. We've got an observation about functions, how we can the progression of units can be based on functions. We can have factual information, and then secondly, The functions take into account the intellectual attitudes of learners, and this also takes into account, emotional attitudes and moral attitudes and Asian, getting something done, and socializing, how to prepare our learners to survive in the society with, after learning a specific course. So the units of progression in a course, in precise, in brief, when we talk about grammar and functions, they have their own scheme of progression, and the scheme is pretty simple one if we talk about stage 1 and stage 2, and similarly the functions have their progression. So the units of progression in a course, they form an important part of goals, content, and sequencing of language curriculum design.